Hey guys, it's Gage. So there's a lot, there's a lot that I want to talk about, and I just want to, I want to make sure I get everything, and then I say everything, because so many people I feel like are going through things that I have gone through, and I want to make sure that I say everything. That way, a person who might need help will be able to identify with me, and so I'm gonna do my best to do it in order, and I promise to speak nothing but the truth. I'm not ashamed of who I am. I'm not ashamed of things that I've done to get me where I am today. Because without those things, I would not be who I am today. So, but make no mistake, I'm not proud of a lot of the things that I did years ago. I want to start out by saying that I am over 3 years clean, off of heroin and all other drugs. And once you hear my story, I'm sure you'll be just as amazed as I am, because some of the things I went through, I shouldn't be breathing here today. So, I guess we'll start with, I'll also, just to add before I, start rambling on, I think it's important to maybe do my my story about transitioning separate from my story with the drug addiction. The two, they do merge together, and I will mention both in different videos, but this video I want to focus more so on drug addiction. Around, I want to say, I played ice hockey all my life. Ever since I was a kid. I played in school, I played for the town, and you know what? I was really good. Not to toot my own horn, but I was pretty good for a kid my size, a girl my size, because I didn't transition till I was 19 years old. So, back then, I was female. I played on all the guys' teams. I loved it. I kept my grades up. Like, hockey was my thing. And, it was the one thing I was good at. And so I was 15 years old. I was getting ready to go try out. The year before, I made it onto varsity as a freshman in high school. I was super excited, super pumped. I wanted to go to college to play hockey. Even just talking about it, it makes me happy because I loved it so much. So I was training, and I got a punching bag, and I was hitting the punching bag. Well, I hit it wrong, and my wrist snapped down. I didn't break anything, but I tore up ligaments and cartilage. So it resulted in having to get surgery, and so I couldn't play hockey. I want to say because a lot of people ask me what the turning point was, like what happened, why did you feel the need to go do all these, to go do drugs and party and stuff. And I've thought about it a lot, and I honestly believe that that right there was the turning point for me, because even after surgery and physical therapy, it still hurts a lot. And the doctor wouldn't write me a note to play hockey anymore. So once I realized I'm not going to be able to play hockey anymore, that's when I started smoking cigarettes. That's when I started drinking. And that's when I started hanging out with friends a lot more. Because when I was doing hockey, I had to go to practice at 4 o'clock in the morning before school, go to school, and then I'd have hockey after school as well, because I was on 2 different teams. So not having that anymore, it gave me a lot of free time. So in school, I was an outcast. I never really had best friends. I never really had anybody. I was always, I was a tomboy. Again, I was very confused as a kid. I didn't know if I was transgender. I didn't know, all I knew is that I liked girls, and that's all I knew. I liked girls, and so, growing up was really hard. It really was. I was really confused. Really depressed, very suicidal. I used to cut myself on a regular basis. I tried to take, I tried to overdose on over-the-counter medications, tripping off a Benadryl, and, I used to huff Duster, and I guess the point I'm trying to make right now is that I was doing anything and everything to get me out of the state of mind that I was in. And so self-medicating, so I want to say I was about 16, 17 years old when I went to my first rave. So I went to a rave, and that's when, I started doing ecstasy, Special K, drinking a lot, Adderall, all that stuff. Always skipping school. My grades slipped so much that my principal actually convinced my mom to have me drop out, because I would have had to repeat another year, and he knew how bad I was being bullied in school, and thought that maybe I'd have a better shot outside of the public school system. So I did. I dropped out of high school the middle of my junior year, and I went balls to the wall. I literally, in my mind at the time, I didn't care if I lived or died. Still at this point, I didn't know I was transgender. I was so unhappy, even if you were to look at pictures of me back then, you can see something, in my eyes, in just my face. I was so confused. I was so unhappy. So, I started hanging out with friends a lot more, going to raves. Like I said, doing anything and everything. Um, so I was seeing a therapist, you know. I was 15 years old when I started seeing this therapist, and she had me on Klonopin for my anxiety, and she had me on 90 milligrams. I'm sorry. She had me on, I think it was 10 milligrams, 10 milligrams, and I'd get 90 of them a month. And all I can say is I really hope that now when doctors give out medications like that they are giving the parents and the kid the knowledge that they need when taking medications like this, because Klonopin really screwed up my head. I had no idea how addictive it was. And so, I started taking it the way that I should have been, only when I'm having panic attacks and stuff like that. And it got to the point where I started abusing it, started selling some, and I remember the first time I tried to commit suicide was by taking my entire prescription of Klonopin. So, as you can see, it didn't work. And at that point, I thought I hit my lowest. So I ended up going to a show, a Twisted show, and I met this girl Jess, and she was very she just didn't give a shit about anything, about and what I mean by that is, she go out, purple hair, dicky shorts, a beater on, and someone look at her weird, and she just didn't care. You know what I mean? Like, she was very I can't think of the right word, but just she was confident, kind of like, you like that, right? That makes you happy. So who cares what these people think? You know what I mean? They're not living your life, It makes you happy, you do it. And I think at that time in my life, I needed that. So what ended up happening was I ended up moving out, and I moved up to New Hampshire with Jess, only knowing her for 2 days. So I moved up there, and I definitely did not expect my life to unfold the way that it did once I moved up there. So I moved up to New Hampshire, and I mentioned that I didn't feel right in the body that I was in, and Jess actually had a friend who was in the process of transitioning. So she said, introduce you to my friend Jace, and we're gonna go see him, and you guys can talk and whatever, and see if this is what's going on. And so that's what we did. We went up there, and once I met him and talked to him for just 5 minutes, I knew that this is what I am. This everything made sense after that. Everything that I ever felt, just to a T. And I felt finally a sense of, I felt complete in a way, so that's when I came out as transgender. I was 19 years old. I told my family, my mom, she took it as well as a mom can, at first she was a little sad, confused, and I think really concerned just because, once you do start taking hormones, things don't go back. There are things that are irreversible, and she just wanted to make sure, I was sure, and I think after seeing me live this way, and seeing the change just in my facial expressions alone, in my eyes, she knows that this was exactly what I needed to do in order to be happy, and she accepted me for it. My dad, my biological father, it was a little tougher with him. He didn't accept it at first. He didn't. And basically I just gave him time, now, 7 years later, he does accept it. And I just want to go out and say I'm extremely fortunate for the family that I have, because I know people that, their parents don't accept them, or their parents don't even know, because they still haven't told them, and that, it breaks my heart. It really does. But anyways, I don't want to get straight too off topic. So I moved up with Jess. My friend Brando ended up getting a big settlement, and he ended up getting a bunch of money, and he started bringing over OxyContin. Bags just full of OxyContin. So much. I don't even know how much. And we would just, I remember the first time I ever did OxyContin, I got so sick. I was so sick, and I was like, oh my God, this is the worst. Like, I hate this. I don't want to feel like this ever again. I was throwing up. I was like, I just wanted it to stop. And so, the saying, you hang around the barbershop long enough, you're going to get a haircut. And that's what happened. I hated it the first time. But then I just kept doing it because it was there. It was free. And it made what I thought it made everything easier to deal with. So I was doing Percocets for a long time, and one day I was landscaping for work, and I was really sick. I hadn't had anything in over 24 hours, and so I asked Jess if she could find anything at all, and she said that she could get heroin. So she got heroin, I said, screw it. And she said, oh, well, I'm not going to sniff it. You don't feel it as much if you sniff it, and that it's a waste if you sniff it. So that was the first time I ever was shot up with heroin. I never thought I'd do heroin. Never. I always said, these people are so stupid. Why would you, do something that is definitely going to kill you? And, I guess so many people, they'll say, oh, I'll never do heroin. I'll never do crystal meth. Like, those are hard drugs. I'll never do that. But, I was one of those people, and I ended up doing it for 6 years. And, once I did it that one time, I was hooked. That was it. I signed my life away. The second that needle went into my arm, I gave up everything. Everything I ever loved. And I hurt a lot of people. People I love the most. Now, we'll just skip forward a little bit. Me and Jess were together for 4 years, and that entire time we were using. So towards the end of it, as you can imagine, it was really ugly. Fighting all the time, it was a mess. It was really bad. It was, so I really wanted to try to get clean. And I knew that being with Jess, that wasn't going to happen. We had tried before, we got on the methadone clinic, and, that didn't work. Basically, the methadone clinic, it's just all about the money. And I hate to say it, because I'd love to think that places like that really want to help the person, but they don't. I went in there, I went in there, they start you off at 10 milligrams. 10 milligrams of methadone. All you gotta do is go in and say, oh, I still don't really feel that well. I think I need a higher dose. And they'll up it for you. Every 3 days, you can go up 5 milligrams. By the end of the methadone clinic, I was on 190 milligrams of methadone. 190 milligrams. Nobody needs that much. Unless you were in a severe fucking crazy car accident and have a ton of broken bones, which I did not. And it was cheaper. But anyways, so I actually had to detox off of methadone because I ended up losing my job and couldn't afford it. So they took me off 7 milligrams a day. They took me down. I have never felt so sick in my entire life. Not off of heroin, not off of Percocets. Coming off of methadone, that was literally the worst detox I ever endured. Ever. I don't wish it on my worst enemy. Honest to God. So that happened, and that was literally right when Jess and I split up. So I ended up moving back to Mass. I figured I had a better shot getting clean down here than I did up there, you know, around people I love, that love me. So I stayed at my mom's for a little while, and I I ended up in rehab. What led to that was I ended up stealing from the house, stole something of my younger sister's, and I um, there's so much stigma when it comes to addicts, especially any addicts, really, and how oh, doing, some people will say doing drugs, that doesn't make you steal. You're just a shitty person. But anybody that knows me, that knew me before drugs and knows me after, knows I was a completely different person when I was doing heroin. Never would I steal from my baby sister, I'd kick the crap out of someone for doing something like that. But I did it when I was addicted to heroin. So that happened. My mom found out I had a complete mental breakdown in the living room, just crying and saying that, I need help. I need help. I don't know what to do. I'm a mess, So she called my biological father, and he came and got me because he's sober. He's a sponsor in AA, so she figured he would have better resources than she does. And he brought me to Cab in Danvers, and that was the first rehab I was ever in. So after that, I was in there, and it was really hard because they wanted to put me in a halfway house, and the problem with that is I'm transgender, and they didn't know where to put me, meaning they were concerned about my safety if I go to the men's, because I hadn't had any surgeries yet. And then they were nervous putting me in the women's because, well, this is how I look, so I would also be at risk there as well. So I was screwed from the get-go. No one knew where to put me. They felt my safety was at risk, so I ended up on the streets. I wasn't allowed to go back to my mom's house, and I had two baby sisters there. It was a matter of keeping them safe, and I completely 100% agree with my mom's decision. And she did the right thing, and I can't even imagine how difficult it must have been for her, because I see the toll it took on her, and I hate that I even ever did that to her. So I got out of detox, and I just went right back into it, right back in. I was a mess, you know. It was, I just, so I was homeless, and I ended up talking to my sister's father, who's, he's like a dad to me. He was married to my mom till I was 15 years old. Um, so he raised me, and you know, so I saw him. I was sleeping. I remember I was sleeping on my mom's porch, um, because I had been walking around that entire night trying to find a place to sleep that no one would, call the cops or anything. And I broke down right in front of them, lost it, you know. And this is months of being, living outside. And, I need help. I don't know what to do. Please help me. And he took me up to North Conway. He set me up in one of his apartments because he's a landlord, so he owns a few different places. And he put me up in like a little studio, and I was there for a few months, and it's true when they say you can't help someone that doesn't want to help themselves. You really can't. I had so many people trying to help me, and nothing worked. So I was shooting heroin the entire time I was living in my dad's place. And I was in and out of psych wards, you know. He ended up finding out. We had a big fight, and I left. I told him to leave me the money that I've made from working, and I'll be out of here. And I took that money. I spent it all on heroin. Walked all the way to Salem from Danvers, and met up with my guy at the time, and just got really high. So I was homeless again. And everyone cut me off. Everyone that like knew me personally had cut me off at this point. I wasn't getting rides from anyone. I wasn't getting, um, you know, money from anybody. Not from anyone that knew what was going on. And so I ended up coming in contact with one of my friends that was a mutual friend of me and Jess, and this chick Danielle, and I went up with her all the way up to Vermont. Because further away is better. So I went all the way up to Vermont, and she had a really bad heroin addiction too. So it was all bad. I mean, then one of her friends stole something out of her car. I got blamed for it, and I'll tell you guys right now if I took the iPod or not. I really didn't. Not this time. I didn't take it. But regardless, I got blamed for it. I got stranded in Vermont. you know, I reached out on Facebook, um, you know, asking people for money so I get a train back. Um, so I got a train back to Manchester. I was homeless in Manchester for a little while, just kind of sleeping in alleyways, you know, stuff like that. You know, I was the epitome of a junkie. I was dirty. Literally, I had a backpack that had two pairs of socks, two pairs of boxers, a pair of jeans, a pair of shorts, and two pairs of shirts. And that was it. Um, so when I slept outside, I slept outside. I used my backpack as a pillow and I'd lay on top of it. Um, and that was it, you know. No job, no like food stamps, no nothing. Nothing. So, I remember I, contacted another friend of mine, and, got in touch with, uh, this girl who offered to get me from Manchester. So she picked me up, and then I ended up in Western Mass. Oh my God, I can't even think of the name. Keene, New Hampshire, is where I ended up. So in Keene, New Hampshire, things just got worse and worse. I was shooting heroin still every day. I was literally meeting people off the streets. I remember I was sitting this one time, I was sitting on the curb outside, and I must have looked, you know, not in good shape because this guy walked by me and he's like, "Hey, you doing all right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you know." He's like, "You eat anything today?" And I said, "No, I haven't. I don't know, like, where shelters are around here or nothing. Like, I'm from Massachusetts." And he said, "All right, come inside. I'll make you a peanut butter and jelly sandwich." So this kid, you know, I don't know how I did it. You know, I'm just like thinking back of all the things that I did, and like I just can't even like picture myself doing these things. Um, but that's what I mean by the drug. Literally, just it just takes over your entire like everything, man. It's crazy. Like I'm very like, you know, I stick to myself, you know what I mean? Like I don't really talk to strangers, and like I definitely don't go into people's houses that I don't know, like by myself, like out of random, you know. That's just not things that I do. Uh, but it just proves my point again that when you're doing that stuff, you do things that you wouldn't normally do. So while I was in Keene, New Hampshire, I ended up, you know, I was actually staying with that guy that, you know, helped me that day. Come to find out, they're all heroin addicts. So I was there, and, you know, I met this other guy, one of their connects, and I went over to his house one day. So I go over to his house, and I asked if he had a clean needle because I didn't have one, and he said, yeah, I'm pretty sure I have one, you know. So we met up, and he offered to give me a shot for free because I didn't have any money, you know. And he was like, no, no, man, I'll help you out. You know, you're sick. I don't want you to be sick and all that. So he gave me a little bit, and heroin. It's kind of like if it's a little bit, sniffing it's not gonna do anything. It's not even gonna help me not be sick. So I had to shoot it in order to feel it, or at least in my mind, I had to shoot it. I think what people need to understand as well is you get addicted to the needle itself. So what happened was I used one of his needles. And the result of that was I contracted hepatitis C. I didn't find that out till about a year or two after that, but no, about a year after. But that's who I got it by. So sorry. So in Keene, I was staying with this couple, and they had a baby, and they were heroin addicts too, and it was really messy. Man, the things I've seen, it's just it just proves to me time and time again that this drug is the devil. It's pure evil. Nothing good ever will come of it. Ever. So when I was in Keene, I ended up, I'd just meet people off the street here and there, just, or at the shelters or whatever. And it seemed like literally everyone I'd meet was into heroin. Everybody. And when I was in Keene, that was the first time that I ever shot coke. So it got really bad. I was basically shooting anything. Once I was, because when I was with Jess, it was, she was doing it for me. I didn't want to know how to do it myself, but we broke up, and I just wanted to get high, so I just started doing it myself. And once I started doing it myself, like I said, that was it. Just goodbye life, out the window. But there's so much stigma around addiction, and there's, I came from a very loving family. A lot of people think it's a moral issue, and it's really not. This can happen to anybody, and I think more than ever right now, people are realizing that. This is a topic that is very delicate, and But we need to talk about it because way too many people are dying. It's literally like an apocalypse. They call it an epidemic, I call it an apocalypse. So, I was in Keene. You know, we got into altercations with the people I was living with. So I ended up homeless in Keene for a little while. I ended up getting a job at Hannaford's. You know, so I was making a little bit of money. I was staying in a rooming house. I rented out a room, and you know, same thing. Still, you know, doing drugs, whatever. So, all while not having my testosterone. So, my mental health was struggling really bad anyways because I was doing heroin every day, but it was also struggling because I was feeling so lost within myself and my identity and just not knowing what I was going to do because you know, you go without testosterone long enough, you know, there's female traits and things of that nature that do come back, you know. And while I'm meeting all these different people and you know, sketchy people, I'm also having to hide my identity and hide the fact that I'm transgender and really try to make sure that they just think that I'm some guy, because it can be dangerous, you know, especially when I'm in a place that no one knows who I am, you know. So I ended up calling my sister's father, and I begged him to pay for gas money so I could get home. And I didn't have anyone to stay with back here, but I was getting tired, and I really felt once again that being close to home would be better. So I ended up back in Danvers, and I was homeless here for like half a year, and you know, same thing, staying with random people. And I was working with my sister's father every day, and one day he picked me up from the house I was staying at, and he said, you know, grab everything that you have here. And I said, you know, why, what's going on? And he said, you're not coming back to this place. And I said, you know, are you sure? Because, you know, the last time he said that was the last time. I'm out, don't ever ask for help again. He said, you're gonna live with me. You know, he had a finished basement. I stayed in his basement. And, you know, he owns his own business, so when he went to work, I went to work. When he went to sleep, I went to sleep. You know, when he ate, I ate. I like to say it was kind of like house arrest, but I could leave. And it was basically we had an understanding where if I leave, don't ever come back. So that's, a lot of people ask me what happened. Like, what was your final, like, breaking point? Like, what made you finally say, I've had enough, I want to get clean, and really stick to it? And, honestly, it was... nothing actually, like, happened. There was no, like crazy event that happened, or crisis, or anything like that. I think I just got tired, you know? When I say I was in and out of psychiatric wards, I was... I was in at least 8 different psychiatric units within... I remember one year I was in 4, just in one year. I was so suicidal. And man, I just see so many people passing away around me. Like, people are, like, dropping like flies, of all ages, like as young as like 17 years old, overdosing on heroin, and it's like, I don't understand how I'm still here. I really don't. I remember the last time I ever tried to commit suicide, I was 21 years old, and I ripped off my dealer at the time. I met him. I told him I wanted, we had this thing. He was at work. I'd walk into the bathroom. He'd walk into the bathroom. He'd put the drugs underneath the trash under the trash tin, and then I'd walk in, grab it, leave the money, and leave. And this last time, I didn't have any money, and I ripped him off, and I ended up shooting the entire bag, and it was $200 worth of heroin. And I also ended up taking I think it was like 10 Xanax on top of it. And I really tried. I really did. And I'm so glad that I didn't succeed. But I guess I don't understand how I'm still here. And I guess that's why I'm making these videos now. I'm not proud of the things that I did. I hurt literally everyone I care about. I mean, my girlfriend Nicole, who you see all over my Facebook all the time, she was one person that I really hurt back when I was doing heroin. We didn't start dating till I was like 6 months sober. But, I used to hit her up for money all the time. And she always cared for me. So she'd always give it to me and just hope that I was using it for what I said I was using it for. Even though she knew deep down I probably wasn't. But she also didn't want me to starve to death. It kills me, the things that I did to her back then, the things that I did to my mom, to my dad, my sisters, my friends. And I just hope that now when they see me and they see that they know that that wasn't me. And I am truly, truly sorry to anybody that I hurt while I was using drugs. Sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, I'm sorry. So yeah, I moved in with my sister's father, and I actually stopped. And I've been sober ever since. Over 3 years now. I you know, I stopped talking to everyone for a while, including my friends. The only people I was able to talk to was, so my sister's father, he got me a phone. It was like a little, a little Obama phone, like little flip phone. And he got me that, and he had it restricted, so I could only call the numbers that he put on there, and the only numbers that could call me are the numbers that he put on there. And that's what I would use. And I was able to watch TV and stuff, but not really able to go online or anything like that. And I would go to work with him every day, and everything I made would go right into the bank. I wasn't paying rent, he was, and I just did whatever he told me to do. I did it, It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. He helped me go back and see my doctor. I got put back on testosterone. I saved enough money to go and get my license back. I got my license back. I got my, I ended up buying a car, my first car, finally, at age, I think, 23. And I finally started to see a change. Things were they were falling into place finally. And all I did was stay sober. That's all I did. So I remember all I could think about was Nicole. It's the only person I really wanted to see and I wanted to talk to. Because she was just so sweet. So sweet, not a bad bone in her body, And she was always just so genuinely concerned for my well-being. And I thought, she never had an issue with drugs, never had an issue with drinking. She's absolutely gorgeous, why am I not spending time with someone like this, someone who would be a good influence on me? So I begged on my sister's father. I begged him to please add her number into that phone. Please, she's a really good girl. You can meet her, we'll hang out here, you want her gone at 10, she'll be gone at 10. I need to talk to someone else, my age, and he let it, he let it, and that's how me and Nicole started dating. Man, this girl, she really helped me. She really did. Even after all the horrible things and all the lies I told her back when I was using, she still saw the good in me. That's amazing, man. That's incredible to me. She gave me hope, and made me really feel like I was worth something, you know. And man, you know, I got 6 months under my belt, and I was like, you know what? And people ask me if it gets easier, you know, and it really does. It really does, you know. But it never goes away. Never goes away. And I don't think it ever will, to be honest. But I want to wrap this up. I think I've been talking on here for like an hour. But so that's kind of like in a nutshell what went down. Very quick version. There's so many details and things. I just want to make sure I am telling you guys all of this. I stayed with Dawn for about a year, and the $1,000,000 question is, how do you stay sober? How'd you do it? I do it every day, one day at a time. And it sounds cliche, but that's the truth right there. Literally, just every day. Your number one priority, your number one goal, don't use. You know what I mean? No matter what. You got people that care about you, God, Rachel passing away. I've lost a lot of people. Bonnie, Rachel, Kyle, Brando, Jess. That's just literally in the past 2 years. Not even like the past year. You all left behind family, siblings, children, your mothers. I go to these funerals and I see these moms, and it's just like, I can't do that to my mom, I can't do that to my dad, to my stepfather, to my brother, my sisters, my friends. Nah. I'm not going to do that to them. I really hope that me sharing what I've been through helps somebody. I really do. I don't know why else I survived all this. The only thing that makes sense is so I could share it. So, that's it for today. But just, if you or anyone is struggling, feel free to show them my videos. You can tell them about me. At this point, I don't care, honestly. I don't care who knows that I'm transgender. I don't care who knows that I was addicted to heroin. Because at this point, I mean, me not sharing that information with people isn't helping anyone. And, you know, I feel like if kids if kids see a guy like this, you know, um, talking about these things and talking about them and telling them, I've been through this, I've done this, maybe they'll listen. you know I really hope so, because we gotta do something. We really gotta do something. I don't know what else to do. It's literally insane. I can't take any more deaths, man. And again, these are like good people. Rachel, great upbringing. You know what I mean? She graduated high school. She got a bachelor's degree at Salem State. Loving mother, accepting mother. She's very pretty. Had friends in school. She was only doing drugs for I don't even know how long. I didn't even know she had any issue with them. Um, I just want to help. I just want to help, and you know what? If telling my story helps reach one person that feels like they're alone and that no one's been through what they've been through, then it's worth it for me. I'm not ashamed of who I am. I'm not ashamed that I'm transgender, and I'm not ashamed that was shooting heroin for 6 years of my life. Um, I'm not proud, but I'm not ashamed to tell it. And I will continue to tell it as many times as I have to until it reaches somebody, because, man, these parents, your parents aren't supposed to, parents aren't supposed to bury their children. It's not the way it goes. It's just, it's an apocalypse. Everyone is dying around us, and we need to do something. So I will make this video public. If you want to share it, go for it. Again, I'm sorry if I was a little, all over the place. Like I said, there's just a lot of stuff. What would be helpful is if you leave in the comment section, if you got any questions or anything like that, just leave a comment and I'll be able to, focus on that. You can leave, even topics that you want me to talk about, or any questions you have, whether it's about addiction or transgender people, or, anything. I'm an open book at this point, Honestly, I've been through it all. The only thing I haven't been through is I didn't go to jail. I should have gone to jail quite a few times. Believe that. But somehow, some way, I managed not to. And my point is, nothing you ask or say will surprise me. And I will be 100% honest in my answer. Thank you guys for listening. This was a long video, so if you stuck around, I really am humbled by it. I really I'm blown away. So many people tell me that I should share my story, and that I should really speak at schools and stuff like that, and it helps me too. it helps me stay sober too. It really does. And you guys telling me, that I'm an inspiration and all that stuff, it's just, you know, it's just another reason to stay sober. So thank you. Thank you. And till next time, peace.